see in my mind, and it's good, but it's hard to pinpoint with the same accuracy as something you can see. But what's key to all these what's underlying all of these senses is it's some kind of emotion that we all kind of attach to these things. Like it's not so much what the smell is, like describing it per se exactly. It's really how it makes you feel. And what I'm trying to get at is that all of these things, all of these senses, these feelings, are really what you want to try to imagine when you're visualizing this picture of what you're memorizing. So last week, I gave those who stayed till the end of the call, and you guys, 20 words to memorize, and you gave your best shots at it. Chad, you did really well, and some people in the chat even said they did well. But when you're trying to come up with pictures for words, let's say something like that, it's not enough to just say, quilt and snail, and just maybe picture a quilt and a snail. You want to imagine you're touching that quilt, right? Is it scratchy? Is it soft? Is it dirty? What does it smell like? Is it from an attic somewhere, so it smells musty? Does it have BO stench in it? I don't know. Maybe it smells like lilacs, right? What else? What does that quilt mean to you? Is it something, my grandmother made for me? It makes me feel like, I feel love when I hold this thing, right? All those things are really what I'm talking about when you visualize something. And they're key to making things pop in your memory, right? How memorable is just a quilt versus something that, is drenched in sweat or painted red by accident, or giving all these details. That's a lot more memorable. And if you can add that emotion and make it as out of the norm as possible, right? Something that really pops, you're going to make that thing stick.
Let me back you up for just a minute here, Nelson, on this visualization, man. Because look, this skill right here that Nelson is talking about has literally saved my life on multiple occasions. Visualization. It is one of the 3 main skills that I teach my students at the basic course. It is one of the 3 main skills that I utilized as a U.S. Navy SEAL. Visualization, let me tell you the first time I used it exactly the way Nelson is describing it. When I was a student in SEAL training, they had taught me that I need to be good at visualizing a situation. All right? You can build muscle memory through visualization if you do it the way Nelson is talking about doing it, but you have to practice it to get good at it. I can remember sitting on the pool deck waiting for my turn to do my 50-meter underwater swim. And I can remember them dragging my teammates out of the pool as they have drowned, and hitting them hard enough in the face that it makes them come back alive and spit water out of their mouth. And they're literally resuscitating them on the pool deck. And I'm like, holy crap. I got to get in here now, and now it's my turn to drown. I got to do this 50-meter underwater swim. But instead of focusing on my drowning teammates, I'm sitting here with my eyes closed, and I'm visualizing myself doing this 50-meter underwater swim. I can feel the water rolling off of my skin along the hairs of my arms. I can feel that feeling in my neck when you're low on air. You call it chicken necking, you know what I mean? And those things actually manifest themselves physically when you are powerful enough at visualizing this circumstance. So I had never done this before, but I visualized it. I got in the water and I executed my 50-meter underwater swim perfectly, exactly as I had visualized it. And it was like I had already done it. It was like I had done it 15 times. It didn't even surprise me that I made it. This is a powerful, powerful tool, not just in memory. Nelson is teaching you a powerful tool that will help you across a broad spectrum of your life. So pay attention. Thank you, Nelson.
I got to clarify one thing with that about visualization. Visualization is really big when it comes to sports. And I think I used to visualize a lot when I was playing football. It makes you comfortable when you get in the moment. So like when I would visualize in football, I would think about, okay, when I'm coming out of the locker room, like smallest things like, people in the stands, like, or popcorn, or like, how it's going to smell, or like the scoreboard. And I found when I got in that moment walking out of the tunnel, it was like you already had been there, so you had a level of comfort. So visualization is very powerful.
And I would just add one thing. I do this with my kids, so I make them visualize without them even knowing it. So before they go to bed, let's say that my son has a swim meet, I'll be like, my two boys, I'll be like, guys, close your eyes. Imagine tomorrow. I want you guys to really imagine you're on the block and they blow the whistle and it's loud, and I get really descriptive. So I'll do like a guided visualization for them, and I really think that it works. We do it with school, with tests, with spelling, everything. And it's just, it's an art form. So Nelson, I'm glad that you're touching this. We're taking it a little bit in a broader context, but it's amazing. Let's keep rolling.
Thanks, Nelson. Sorry about that, Ryan.
That's great.
It's great to hear that. I would imagine it'd be used in sports, like you said, Mark, and super interesting to hear that from maybe the skill point of view. But what's interesting is the way you guys are talking about it. I do that as well. That's like almost using visualization to prepare for the future, and then the way I'm talking about it is preparing to kind of remember the past, right? So visualization is for all time, right? That's pretty cool, actually.
Yeah, we are our own directors. It's so fun. We can all play Spielberg in our life and remember stuff. It's great.
Yeah. So once you and to Chad's point, it's I don't think when I heard visualization was a big part of having a good memory, I said, I don't really have good visual skills like that. Like I'm not creative in that way, but it's a skill that you can practice and get better at. I get a lot of people say like, I don't know if I can come up with pictures in my mind like that, but you can. And there are studies even that show that we remember or respond better to pictures of things rather than to information that we're dealing with. And that's really why this first step is important, is because names, numbers, addresses, complicated facts, these are really difficult things to memorize that our brains don't naturally absorb. We naturally absorb pictures that you can visualize in your mind. So when I say visualize, it's finding a way to turn that complicated information into something that your brain likes. It's a way to trick your brain, really. It's saying, okay, there's a complicated number. No. It's actually a really pleasant picture of something that makes you feel a certain way. And okay, yeah, that I can remember. Right? Not the number, but you gotta find a way, and there's different strategies to turn the more complicated things like numbers and playing cards and stuff into those pictures. I won't get into that today, but the general process still applies. Come up with a picture for what you're memorizing, visualizing. Now, when you have these pictures, when you have these images for what you're trying to memorize, what do you do with it? And this leads me to the second step, which is storage, or organization in your brain, right? And I'd like to bring up this example of things you know, right? Think of something you know. Let's say, I don't know, the capital of France. You guys know the capital of France? Paris? Okay, well, Chad knew it.
I wanted Chad to go first to make sure I got it right.
Okay, but that's a great example. So Chad knew it. Jesse probably knew it. Just wanted to make sure so he didn't say the wrong thing. And Mark looked like he was like, I don't know. That's fine. That's the perfect situation. There's really easy situations when it comes to anything, and it's those. You know it, so that's easy to access. It's fresh in your mind. You know where it is. It comes right out. Then there's Mark's case. He doesn't know it. It's not in there, so how is he going to find it, right? Then there's
like football in France.
No.
No. And then there's Jesse's, position where it's like he knows it, and he probably would have said it. But let's say that he would have to hear it to know that he remembered it, right? And that's the point. That's the position where a lot of people are in. There's a lot of stuff in here that we know, we just can't get it out, right? Or we have trouble getting it out, and that's a recall problem, not a memory problem. And it comes back to how are you organizing the information that you learn, right? If you have no method of putting it in there, you just study something and look at it and hope that it gets put in there and it's easy to find later. That's not the way to do it. And many people will have that experience where it's on the tip of your tongue, or you know it, or you forgot it. But then when Chad says it, you're like, that's right, I knew that.
I would say almost all of us, Nelson, just put information in and keep repeating it, and then a couple weeks later, it's gone, or it's there but we can't recall it.
Yeah.
Most of us don't have a good storage system, I assume.
Exactly, yeah. And a good visual of what your brain might look like is just a clutter of papers, right? Just kind of strewn about on the floor, and every time you have a new thing that you memorize or learn, just throw it in there. And maybe it's on top and you can get it easily the next time you need it, but maybe it gets mixed up and it's in there, but you just can't get it. So the goal is to turn that mess into like a neat cabinet, a file cabinet, right? That's color-coded and tabbed and everything. So when I say, hey, what's the capital of this country, just for example's sake, you know where to look. It's exactly here. It's this pink little tab here, country capitals. You can look, open it, and it's alphabetized as well. There's Paris, right? That sounds great. That sounds like something out of the Matrix, but it actually is possible with some of the techniques that were thousands of years old. This is what I was talking about. It's some techniques that were used by the Greeks, Roman emperors to remember, all their soldiers' names, and just speeches to give their long speeches. They would use these techniques to memorize the points that they wanted to say. So the technique that I use, and there's a few different strategies of it, but the one I'm going to teach you today is kind of the one that is used at the top. In memory competitions, you'll be hard-pressed to find someone who's not using this to memorize, a deck of cards in 20 seconds, right? Some of these insane feats of memory. And it's called the Memory Palace. There's a few other names for it. If you've ever heard of Mind Palace or Method of Loci, Roman Room Method, all the same thing. But we'll stick with Memory Palace. I think that's kind of the most visual and makes sense for what it is. So the way it works is you take something that you already know. The historical version is you take a palace, but not everybody has a palace these days. Back then, the guys using this probably did. But you can just use your house or some kind of structure, some place that you know very well. And it's important for it to be something that you know well because you don't have to memorize it. Think of your house, for example. You walk through it every day, multiple times a day. If you close your eyes, you could probably navigate from the front door to your bedroom, easily. You wouldn't have to go and look right now and double check. And what you can do is imagine the things you're memorizing, the pictures that you visualize from the first step, placed along a path through this mental space. And the way it works is as you visualize those things interacting with the environment in your mind, when you want to recall the list or information that you've memorized, all you have to do is walk back through that same house that from the front door to your bedroom, let's say, and pick up the images that you left there and, return them back to what they actually represented. Sounds complicated. It sounds like a lot more work, but it's actually easier than you think. And it's taking advantage of another thing our brain is really good at, which is spatial information. We just gobble that stuff up. It's just something that without really trying, when we look around our surroundings, our brains are processing that information at a high level. I'm not saying that we're going to remember every single detail about what we see, but general kind of coordinates compared to other things around you, we are absorbing that. If you walk into, a new building, most times you're going to know, where the exit is, where you entered from, where the basic parts of the lobby are. If you pull yourself out of there and went back in, you kind of know how to get back in. And it's not like you sat there and memorized it. You just kind of observed and absorbed that. So we're taking advantage of that. And there's tons of different ways to come up with memory palaces. Think of your house, think of your favorite gym you go to every day, your way to work, your office. And it doesn't even have to be actual physical structures. There's a really popular memory palace that I'm going to show you how to use right now, and that's your body, right? Your body's with you all the time. It's actually the best, most portable memory palace. And the thing you got to just have prepared before you use it to memorize something is an understood pathway through it. So not just choosing random body parts, but saying, okay, my path through this memory palace is going to be from the top of my head down to my feet. And I'm going to choose different locations along my path to store or imagine the different parts of the thing. Okay, I think the best way to do this is to do an example. And everybody on this call, I want you to try this, and you guys as well. Since I think last month you guys did stuff with eating healthy and diet, right? I think on one of your calls you had someone talk about the dirty dozen food. Is that right?
Yep. Yeah.
So there's 12 of them. I figured we could try to memorize it. I've always wanted to know it. Every time I go to the grocery store, I always have to look it up. I should just memorize it. So I'm going to memorize it with you guys as well. So when you guys go to the grocery store, you know exactly the 12 foods that are part of the dirty dozen.
I like it.
Yeah, trying to bring it back. All right, so there's 12, right? It's a dozen. So we need 12 locations along our path. Each location is going to store one thing, in this case, a fruit, right, or vegetable. And so